Welcome back to part 5.
The finale.
We reached the end of the alphabet today, discussing the ABCs of the Big Easy.
Lots of good terms. And lots of delicious ones. So much food.
You gotta stop talking, because that's the intro. And
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
All right, everyone. Last episode in this series, we tackled the letters through O. Today, we're going to finish them off for you. Shall we? What do you think?
Yep. Let's go.
All right. Off we go to P. Parish. And then there is the parish. So, what's the difference? First, Louisiana has parishes instead of counties. Now, we could get into a long discussion on why we're the only ones who have parishes.
But it's basically a holdover from when we were ruled by the French.
The French and the Catholic Church.
That's
correct.
The gist of it.
And we will expound on another episode.
Yeah. We don't have the time.
Often you'll hear somebody say, oh, you need to go to Rocky and Carlos. That's down in the parish. They're talking about Chalmette, Araby, Violet, St. Bernard Parish. It's a suburb south of New Orleans. Next word we have is Picayune. Now, the definition is a small nitpicky. It was a Spanish coin worth more than a nickel and less than a dime. 6 1/4 cents to be precise. It's also the name of our old newspaper, the Times-Picayune. And it's a small town north of New Orleans in Mississippi. Next up we have Pirogue. All right? That's a flat-bottomed canoe, perfect in the bayous. It's very, very similar to what the natives were using, which were hollowed out from trees. Today's are great for duck hunting and fishing in shallow ponds.
And now we've reached the other famous sandwich.
That's right.
The po' boy.
The po' boy. So you'll hear it said po' boy or poor boy. It's a French bread sandwich and signature dish of New Orleans. The origin of the name is not completely settled, but it may refer to the sandwich being a staple meal of poor workers or children. Its origins are thought to lead back to the 1930s during the streetcar strike.
Oh, we're going to do it. I'm sorry.
And that's your cue.
We're going to do it. I'm sorry.
We already have it lined up. We're doing an entire episode with a local author who's going to talk to us all about the history of the po' boy.
We're going to do an entire episode on it. And that's what I was supposed to say.
Next up is praline. You could use some. You need a little sugar, I think. So,
do I?
Brown, sugary, pecan-filled candy patty. Now, pecan, not pecan. Okay? A pecan is what you do when you're in the woods and you got nothing else to use.
Yeah.
A pecan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just that's how you remember how to pronounce it.
Very sweet and so delicious, you can't eat just one, and then you get diabetes.
Really?
Next up is pan padu.
I like this. This is good.
This is very good.
This is very delicious.
If you see this on a menu, at first you'll be like, I have no idea what that is. French for lost bread, meaning a breakfast dish where they use the older stale ends of usually French bread, just like you would with French toast. It's soaked in an egg batter and then fried and topped with syrup or powdered sugar. What makes it so interesting is you've got that French bread that has that very soft inside and that harder outside.
And it's covered in sugar.
Yes, and it gives it a whole
good.
different texture that is well appreciated.
It's a very good dish. It's delicious. And a very nice breakfast.
Yes. Next up, we have red beans and rice. Now,
we were going to get to this eventually.
yes, a true New Orleans staple dish with kidney beans cooked down with seasoning, usually sausage, served over rice. Traditionally served on Mondays.
You should see our episode where we made some.
Yes, you'll get the whole background on why we say they're served on Mondays and a pretty decent recipe on how to do crock-pot red beans.
And they taste good.
Matter of fact, we'll go ahead and put a link to that right up here somewhere. Sounds good. Next up is remoulade. This is a kind of a cold, spicy mayonnaise-based sauce. It's usually served with shrimp and other seafood. Very good, very tasty. Now we have roux. If you watch the Food Channel, you've seen them make the roux. This is normally an equal mixture of flour and some sort of fat and oil or butter. It's used to start many of the Louisiana dishes. This is what thickens up and gives your gravy that texture and deep earthy flavor. Next up, we have roux.
What?
Didn't I just say that?
Didn't we just?
First one was R-O-U-X. This is R-U-E.
Well, this is confusing.
This is the French word for street. Early on, we talked about Calais, the Spanish word for street that you'll see on signs all over. This is the French word. You'll hear, on the sign, you'll see Roux Bourbon or Roux Royale.
Bourbon Street.
Yeah, and it's just letting you know. Off to S. Shotgun. In this case, we don't mean a gun. This is normally part of a double or a single row house in which all the rooms on one side are connected by a long single hallway.
Shotgun houses.
That's right. You can open the front door and shoot a shotgun straight through the back door without hitting a single wall.
And that's where it's got its name?
Yep. Now, I have no idea who has tried this or even why this is the way it's described, you know.
It had to backfire in their face somehow.
I can remember as a kid shooting marbles, and you would try to shoot a marble from the front of the house to the back of the house without hitting any of the doors. You had to get a nice straight line.
Did you ever succeed?
Yes, and I got hollered at a lot for shooting marbles into the backyard.
That had to be an interesting conversation.
Yes. Next up is Snowball. Now, you've probably had shaved ice in other parts of the country.
That's basically what this is.
Very similar, but this is closer to a powdered ice that is served with the flavored syrups.
And it's delicious.
Those of you in the north might throw a snowball. We eat them.
They're delicious.
Yes.
You should
the particular machine that makes them down here, a local invention, gives it a whole different texture than you would with some of the more traditional
There
types.
is a rainbow of flavors you can choose from.
Yes.
There's a lot.
Next up is sauce Pecan. Now, this is a thick, sharp sauce made with a roux and tomatoes that is highly seasoned with herbs and peppers and simmered for hours. Usually pretty spicy. Think of piquant like picante, done with some peppers and some heavier spices. It can be very good, like a shrimp sauce piquant, crawfish sauce piquant. Second line. This is a celebratory dance accompanied by jazz and decorated umbrellas. It's a South Louisiana tradition at weddings, jazz funerals, and other festive occasions. We'll get into this in another episode because...
This is its own episode. It's a very interesting culture.
Yeah, because the reason it's a second line is the first line would be the band.
Right.
And the second line... but we'll get all into that.
We'll explain it in more detail.
If you see one, feel free to join in. It's almost always acceptable.
The more the merrier.
Yes. Next up is streetcar. New Orleans Electric Street Railway System. Been in operation for a very, very long time. And
it's a big staple of transportation here.
And they've had a great resurgence since 1988. They've started replacing some of the lines that went away during the 60s and 70s. So it was very positive.
It's very fun riding these.
Yes.
And they can take you a lot of places in the city.
And for $3 for a day pass, you can't get a cheaper way to see so many areas of the city.
I bet it's cheaper than the bus.
Same price as the bus.
Ah.
But
Is that more fun?
But not as historic,
Yeah.
Next up is swamp. This is a low freshwater wetland or brackish wetland that is heavily forested and subject to seasonal flooding. We live in what was once a swamp. Now we're at T.
Throw me something, mister. Something you're going to hear a lot during Mardi Gras.
That's right. This is what everyone's yelling during the parades to get throws from the maskers on the floats.
This is how you get stuff.
That's right.
Pay attention.
You may hear twin span. Somebody you've asked for direction, they tell you to take the twin span. This is the twin bridges connecting the North Shore at Slidell to New Orleans across Lake Pontchartrain. It's actually part of the I-10 system, the Interstate 10 system. Now we have tasso. This is a seasoned pork that's done more in strips and smoked almost to a jerky consistency. It's also great in beans. It's not as salty as pickled pork would be. Has more of a smoky taste.
It sounds delicious.
Really depends on where you want to go with your tastes for it. So sometimes you can mix them, use a little of both.
Yeah, we're at the Trinity.
The
Not
Trinity.
The Holy Trinity.
That's
It's
right.
The Trinity.
Seasoning mixture prevalent in Cajun and Creole cuisine. Celery, onions, and bell pepper.
Very important for many dishes.
Exactly. I don't think we start a dish in this house without Trinity.
No. It's a staple.
Next up is turducken. This is
What?
sounds ludicrous. I know. This is a Cajun dish. It is a turkey.
Stuff.
It is stuffed with a duck, and then that duck is stuffed with a chicken.
Wait, so the turkey is stuffed in a duck, and then that duck, which has a turkey stuffed in it, is stuffed in the chicken.
No, other way around. The chicken is stuffed in the duck.
And the duck is stuffed in the chicken.
No.
Wait, I'm confused. What did I say?
Duck is stuck in the turkey.
I'm so confused.
And they're all deboned, and then they're roasted, and then
So
you cut them up, and you get the different types of
So it's
meat.
basically 3 kinds of meat stuffed within each other.
Correct.
Wow.
No, and that's why we call it a turducken.
Huh.
Ba-dum-bum. Next is Uptown. Now, this is the area denoted as upriver from the French Quarter, with Canal Street being the divider.
You should see our episode on directions to see how ludicrous this gets.
Yes, it's a lot of fun. That's a good comedic
It's
episode,
very
for
fun.
sure.
I loved it.
Next up is V. Vous Carré. This is French for the old quarter, okay? This is the term used to designate the French Quarter, including world-famous Bourbon Street. Next up is voodoo. Now, some consider voodoo a religion, some a form of witchcraft, and some just spooky fun.
Religion is the right term.
I believe it most certainly is, especially here where it's not so much a game or thing. It's a true followed path. So
We're probably going to do an episode on this.
Oh, we'll certainly
Since
do
this is a very interesting religion.
but it definitely fascinates visitors all the time. So it's definitely a thing to follow up on. Now we're at W.
We're very close to the end.
Yes, West Bank. You have to look east from the French Quarter to see the West Bank. Go back to our episode on directions.
And just to see how ludicrous this gets.
But the West Bank would be on the west side of the Mississippi. It's the area where Algiers is, which is part of New Orleans, and parts of Jefferson Parish, like where we film here in Gretna.
Yep.
Who dat? A New Orleans Saints fan and a chant is a who dat. Who dat say they gonna beat them Saints?
I don't know how to. I don't know what the answer to that is.
No one.
We hope.
Yeah, we really hope.
Yeah.
Next up, Y. Yat. Y-A-T. This could be a greeting as in, where yat? And hello, how are you doing? So, but yat is also used as a noun to describe a true native of the area. He's a yat. Because he says stuff like, where yat?
Huh. Z.
We're here at the end of the alphabet.
Yep.
And our letter for Z is Zydeco. Now, this is a wonderful musical twist that is grown out of our jazz heritage. It's a kind of a blend of an African and Cajun music. You'll hear washboards in this. You'll hear music boxes, and they'll take some traditional songs and convert them into a Zydeco beat. They're a whole lot of fun and good to dance to.
Yep.
I hope you've enjoyed our journey through the ABCs of the Big Easy.
We
Please,
covered many things.
please subscribe to our channel. Go to our website at www.bigeasylife.org for our blog, merch, and thanks for being part of our Big Easy Life.